and welcome to the AgriBusiness Global Report. My name is Sarah Webb, and I'm editor of AgriBusiness Global and host of today's show. In this segment, I speak with Neil DeStefano, principal of Neil DeStefano Consulting, about how biologicals companies can find success in bringing new products to the U.S. Thanks for joining. Neil, thanks so much for joining me today. Can you talk to me a little bit about how biologicals companies can be successful in bringing new products into the U.S.?
To sort of characterize it quite simply, something maybe somebody that's listening to this can put in their pocket. It's really the 4 Ps, and it's true for biologicals just like it was for automobiles or synthetic ag chemicals, and that's product, place, price, and promotion. So if we start with product, what they should be doing is developing a realistic market opportunity assessment. How big can your product truly be? And that's done with doing a simple SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of you and your competition, and being honest about it, identifying what the market size is by crop, by pest, geography. Usually this means they have to subscribe or purchase or get access to market research information that has statistics on that. They need to define what the addressable acres are. Not every acre of corn is going to need their product. It's going to be addressable based on or defined by their pest spectrum and how it's used. So they need to understand that. And then this is one I see many companies struggle with. I know I did. What's a realistic share expectation? And we may start out trying to develop an MOA or market opportunity assessment. Says, well, let's start with 15%. Oh, that's interesting. Have you ever had a 15% market share for anything? 15% is quite generous in our industry. So trying to make that realistic. And the reason we need to be realistic with a market opportunity assessment is that that's going to drive your financials. That's going to calculate your NPV. That's going to tell you how much you should be able to invest in the product and the success that come with that. And then based on an accurate assessment of your gross and net pricing, knowing what the channel's expectations are for programs and rebates, assuming that most manufacturers aren't going to be able to go direct, they're going to have to go through somebody. These somebodies are going to be expecting to make money as well. What is that amount that they're expecting? And these are pretty well understood in our industry. And believe it or not, some companies, another issue, don't have a good handle on their COGS. So you need to try as best as you can to establish your cost of goods sold. So you're not surprised after the fact. You've launched, you've priced, you've invested, and oh my gosh, we've gone back and recalculated our raw materials and our freight and shipping costs and so forth, and our COGS are out of line. Now what do we do? And that all drives to your gross margin, and you're in this to make money. You've got to have the right label, targeting the pests and benefits of importance to the farmers. What problem is it solving? What value is it bringing? What are the rates that really work? What's the proper use pattern? Delivering claims that are realistic, and using the proper handling precautions that are commercially realistic. And then you've got to develop the right data points for these proof points. I talked about earlier, small plot R&D type replicated trials that have good statistics. The large field trials are excellent to go with, and there's nothing like seeing it in the field backed up by the data. You should have multiple locations. Everybody wants to see it in that backyard, and while that's impossible to do, picking geographically representative areas to put your trial work, and then done over multiple years, not just one and done. Positioning your product will be key from the start. You get one chance to make a first impression. It's such a cliche, but it's true. Identifying and understanding the features and benefits, pricing it to value, in other words, what it does, how it can fit into a program with synthetics over a full season. So now that you've got a product and a place, going back to the 4 Ps, a product and a price, now you need to find the right place, and that's the right market access partner. And it's really critical, and it's not easy. Most potential channel partners, whether the basics, distributors, or retailers, probably have one or multiple offerings in that category. So you're going to need their help to find shelf space. And you've got to match your product with their geographic and crop coverage and having that align so that it works for you and for them. And will your product be important to them? You may sign a deal with them, they may take it on, but if they're going to shove it to the back of the list and keep it on the shelf, or are they small enough and is it important enough to their markets where they'll get behind it and be a market maker for you? And will it generate the margins that they want? That'll be a key part. And then finally, of the 4 Ps, and not the least important in being a media company, you get this, is promotion. You should have a really solid go-to-market plan. First off, how will you service your product? Most biologicals require a little bit more hand-holding and training. And do you have the people to service it? Some companies from overseas come in and they haven't thought about that. They don't have anybody. And there are contractors like AgCall, for example, just to name one, that you can hire that can represent you at least until you get up and running. How will you work with centers of influence, consultants, and universities to help you with recommendations? It takes time and people to influence the influencers. And then you've got to have a communications plan. And like any good communications plan and marketing mix, your message has to do 3 things. It's got to be important, it's got to be believable, and it's got to be seen. And, to break through the clutter. And I believe that communications is elastic when it comes to biological. So the more you do, the more interest you can create. PR is a critical tool in the toolbox in terms of developing credibility. If social media is fast and low cost, websites are a 24/7 reference, and then advertising to fit what your budgets are and where your market is. Samples, of course, are helpful in terms of promotion as well. So, I think setting the right expectations for yourself is important. What's the realistic time to maturity? Usually, in my experience with any product I've ever developed, it takes a minimum of 5 years. Most biologicals, when they hear that, get a little bit frustrated. They want to exit the company in many startups and sell it, spin it off in 3 years. So that's a little bit of a conflict. Try to be patient, try to be consistent, and finally, be properly funded to try to do all that I said. And you can't probably do it all, but you've got to pick and choose. And these are just some of the sensitivities that I would consult anybody trying to enter the U.S. with a biological.
Well said. And thank you so much, Neil, for providing all of that information. I'm sure our listeners will really appreciate it.
Glad to. Just remember this: there's no shortcuts, and there's really nothing different about launching a biological versus anything else. You got to do your homework.
Absolutely. And thank you again, Neil, for joining me today. I appreciate your insights.
My pleasure.
Thanks again for joining for this segment of the AgriBusiness Global Report. I'm your host, Sarah Webb. Until next time.